Coming up next on YCU News, Clermont School Board members start thinking about the future plans for the city schools. We hear from the innkeeper at the Norwich Inn. Sale of heroin is on the rise in Lebanon. For more local news and weather and sports, it's time for YCU, your local view.
Now, your daily digest of the Dartmouth Lake Sunapee region and central Vermont. News, sports, weather, public affairs, and all that's happening in our area. The news on YCU, your local view.
Welcome to YCU News. I'm John O'Connor, sitting in for Ashley Perkins. Our first story today, Clermont School Board members are thinking of the future plans for the city's schools. Adding an all-day kindergarten programming, budgeting for summer school programs, both were briefly discussed Wednesday night. And both topics will be explored again further after the board solves its current problems. Building renovation work on Stevens High School continues. Exterior work, including designing and safer bus drop-off for students, is on the schedule. Inside the three-story building is another issue. Plans to save money on heating and lighting the school through performance contract are not coming together quickly. Instead, the high school will rely again on its century-old oil heating burners to warm the building this winter. Energy savings from the performance contract were to be used to pay back costs of the school's renovation. Voters in March approved spending $12.6 million to update Stevens High. A warrant article to approve spending $5 million to replace the boilers with a wood pellet and propane fuel systems also passed. Savings from the district's change from oil to wood pellets and propane were to pay back the $5 million sum. Voters passed a lease purchase plan for this energy change instead of a traditional bond. The lease purchase plan is adding to the challenge of finding bank financing. School board member David Putnam says the district will continue to look for financing. Lebanon police and city leaders say the sale and distribution of heroin in that city are on the rise. Police charged 5 Upper Valley residents with possession or sale of drugs last week, City Manager Greg Lewis says. Earlier in August, over 300 bags of heroin were confiscated, police report. The 5 people arrested on felony-level drug charges include 32-year-old Heather Rowe of Lebanon, 31-year-old Brian Moody of West Lebanon, 36-year-old Daniel Busaletto of White River Junction, Vermont, 41-year-old Alyssa Kelly, also of White River Junction, and 50-year-old Barbara Tremblay of South Royalton, Vermont. Entergy, the company that owns and operates Vermont Yankee, seeks a 20-year extension of its license. A Vermont State Utility Board is expected to rule on extending the license before year's end. A federal judge ruled last week against the state's attempt to shut down the plant, Vermont Public Radio reports. According to the judge, closing the plant for safety concerns is the federal court's role, not the state's. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders says the state may have another route to pursue. That would be closing the plant for economic reasons. That the plant is no longer working property. The Vermont plant is 40 years old. Sanders also says the Vermont Yankee plant is the same designs as Japan's Fukushima nuclear power plant. That plant failed during a typhoon about a year ago. The Japanese plant was in operation when the storm hit. An expired inspection sticker caught the eye of a Vermont state trooper early Thursday morning. The trooper was monitoring traffic along Route 4 in Bridgewater between Rutland and Woodstock, Vermont. That led to the arrest of the car's driver, 61-year-old James W. Caparel. State police charged him with driving with a suspended license and for failing to appear in Rutland District Court to pay a fine. Police took Caparel into custody after his motor vehicle record was checked while Caparel waited in Bridgewater. He was scheduled to appear in the Rutland court on the outstanding fine. Bail was set at $750. And an October court day will likely be set on the charge of driving with a suspended license, police report. Meanwhile, here's some brighter news involving cars. Even as drivers today grumble about rising gasoline prices, we still marvel at early models that revved up America's love of cars. On Sunday in Clermont, it's the day for all things classic cars, that is. The Clermont Senior Center will host its second annual car and motorcycle show on Sunday. From the 1960s muscle cars to the 1940s hardworking trucks and motorcycles, as much fun to ride as to look at, visitors will determine the best vehicle in each class. The show runs from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at 136 Maple Avenue. Registration is from 9 a.m. to noon. Beyond prizes, there'll be food, music, a 50-50 raffle with the proceeds raised during Saturday's show to benefit the Clermont Senior Center. I'm John O'Connor for YCU, your local view. Tomorrow, Ashley Perkins will return, so I want to bid you a good night.